Hey friends, I hope y'all are having a great day today. If you're new, my name's Alicia and today's video is a grocery challenge with my husband. This one is more just for fun. We each get $20 to spend however we want, wherever we want, and we just have to see how many meals we can make out of it or how long we can stretch it for. Originally, we were only going to go to one store, but he did go to 2 stores, which is completely fine. I'm not worried about it. I only went to 1 store. But first, before we get into it, I do want to say that if you've clicked on this video because you or your family are struggling for food, please reach out to your local resources and get the help that y'all deserve. Everyone deserves food. Everyone, no matter what. There's no reason for anyone to go hungry. Please reach out to your local resources. If you are in the United States or in Canada, you can call 211 or you can go to 211.org and they will give you a full list of resources available to you in your area. A few things about the challenge I do want to say is that, we can use pantry items, and this is more of just a fun challenge for us, and it has been really fun. But anyways, without me yapping any longer, let's get started. Alright, here's a look at everything that we got. So we're just going to pause a quick moment, and I want y'all to tell me what y'all would make with what you see on the table. And I also wanted to mention that I did zero planning before walking in the Walmarts that day. And I kind of gave myself a disadvantage, but I was pleasantly surprised with how it came out. Normally, I plan out every single detail of my budget challenges, and I realized that for some people, that's just not really possible. If you're facing a tight budget, you're not going to be able to sit and plan for a week prior to going and shopping. But anyways, let's get back to it. Got a can of pineapple slices, 2 bags of mixed vegetables, a 5-pound bag of potatoes, 7 bananas. We've got an 8-ounce block of extra sharp cheddar cheese, a thing of creamy peanut butter, a small container of Greek yogurt that is plain, a small container of tomato sauce that is seasoned with garlic powder and onion powder, 2 pounds of rice, 1 pound of navy beans, a pound of elbow noodles, a box of Rice Krispies or Rice Crisp, a 2-pound bag of flour, and this John Morrell sausage. And that is everything, and the subtotal was $19.85. And there is all the prices of everything. For breakfast on day 1, I'm doing O'Brien style hash browns. I actually did these in a recent budget challenge, but I did them on the stovetop. They go by super quick in the oven. So I just cubed them up, did oil and some Cajun two-step, and I baked them at 475 for about 20 to 25 minutes. You just want to get them nice and crispy. If you don't like them super crispy, you can take them out beforehand. We do, and they were delicious. We had a banana apiece on the side. My kids actually had half a banana apiece on the side, and then they had the other half of a banana later on as a snack. For lunch, I'm starting out by getting 3/4 of the box or 6 servings of the elbow pasta going, and once it's gotten a little bit of a head start, I picked out all the green beans from the mixed vegetable bags, or a significant amount of them, and I'm adding those in as well. In this pan, we're making a cheese sauce. So I started out with 6 tablespoons of margarine, or you can of course use butter. If you don't have butter, you can honestly use oil in a pinch. And then we're going to add in about 6 tablespoons of flour. I used a hefty 1/3 cup because 1/3 of a cup is 5 tablespoons, I believe. So if you just overfill it a little bit, it's close to 6. But then we're going to slowly add in 2 cups of milk. And then once your sauce has loosened up good enough, you can add the rest of your liquid in, all at once if you wish. But you need 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of water. If you don't have the milk, then you could use all water. It's not going to be as rich though. But once I've got the water added in, I've turned off the heat because you want this to cool down a little bit before adding in your cheese. And then you also want to season it with salt and pepper to taste. You also want to gradually add in your cheese because we just don't want it to be like stretchy cheese in there. I mean, if you want it to, you can. I just didn't want mine to. And I feel like that's how it ends up being all stretchy and it sticks to your whisk and everything, is if you don't let it cool down and if you add it all at once. This is, of course, just my personal opinion on it. I don't know if that really makes the difference or not. So off on the side, once my pasta was fully cooked, I just drained off the water. And you can save some if you wish. I didn't because I knew I had more than plenty enough sauce. But I am going to add about 3 cups of the cheese sauce because we've got about 5 cups of cheese sauce. And I want to save 2 cups of cheese sauce for later on. So then I'm just going to mix this up. Make sure that it's got enough salt and pepper. That's, of course, always to your taste. And then we are going to have mac and cheesies for lunch. And my kids were very thrilled to have mac and cheese for lunch. They did have one complaint, and I'm sure all of y'all might guess what it is. Green beans were in their mac and cheese. They were not a fan of that. They did tell me it was good, but next time I needed to put the green beans on the side because they didn't appreciate cheesy green beans. I thought it was delicious. I mean, who wouldn't want cheesy green beans? But anyways, that was my little food critic's thoughts for you. But there's our lunch. For dinner, I am taking these 2 potatoes and I cut them up about the same size as I used for the O'Brien hash browns that morning. And I'm going to cook them in some margarine. If I had butter, I would either use butter and oil, or I would just use oil. But because I have margarine and it's made mostly of vegetable oil, I didn't see the need in adding extra oil. Once I give my potatoes a head start, I'm adding one of the smoked sausages and reserving the other one for later. Whenever I was picking out my green beans, I did separate the corn away from the peas and carrots. And I'm also using half of the peas and carrots that I had and then all of the corn. Then I'm going to be adding about 1.5 cups of beans. I fill up both of my cups, but half of one of them is just like bean broth. Once I've got my beans added in, I'm going to add that little pouch of tomato sauce, and then I'm going to fill it up with water and add that in there too. I will also be adding in the rest of the pasta from earlier and some tomato chicken bouillon powder. I also added in 4 cups of water, and I'm going to let this cook on a medium heat until the potatoes and the pasta are fully cooked. I also made some biscuits to go on the side. I didn't record how I made my biscuits, but the only thing that I did differently from my usual biscuit recipe is I added in some garlic powder and some popcorn cheddar seasoning, just a little bit of it. And I just baked it all at the same amount of time. I cut them into squares instead of doing the circles with the biscuit cutter, but I'm going to leave the recipe that I used linked in the description box for y'all. But this was our dinner on night 1, and it was super delicious and very comforting on a rainy day. For breakfast on day 2, I made some Instant Pot rice pudding because I forgot to cook my rice the night before. So I did 1 cup of rice, 4 cups of water, rice setting one time, added my yogurt in, and then I mixed it up and did the rice setting for a second time. I also added some vanilla and sugar, and we had our pineapples on the top. I used half the can and saved the juice for later. For lunch, I took the rest of my potatoes, which was those 5 potatoes, and I cut them into like half steak fries, if you will. I don't know, this was like a new shape for us and it was delicious. And then I seasoned it with salt, garlic powder, paprika, and then I put some oil on it, tossed it around, and baked these at 475 for about 15 minutes, and then I tossed them up a little bit, that way they kind of get flipped around. And then I baked it for another 15 minutes, and these were delicious. These are kind of like copycat Taco Bell fries, or the cube potatoes. I don't know, it's delicious. I also made 2 cups of Instant Pot rice, just 2 cups to 4 cups of water, just like I like to do on the stovetop. And then I used about half of my remaining cheese sauce. So this was technically the last of the cheese sauce, but it was only half of the amount that I reserved because I had already used the other half of that jar for something that you'll see later on in the video. I just added the cheese sauce to the rice because I didn't want to dirty another dish by warming it up. You could and just drizzle it over the top. This was my favorite meal of this challenge. It was so good. So for dinner, I'm making a 1-pot Instant Pot fried rice. Say that 10 times fast. But you'll notice I didn't do a great job at planning my meals because most of the day on day 1 we had pasta. Most of the day, or in fact all of the day for our main meals on day 2, we had rice. My family didn't mind. I certainly didn't mind not having the variety in each day, but if you wanted to imitate it, you could kind of flop things around a little bit. But anyways, I got my Instant Pot heated up, and I put some oil in there, and my last 2 cups of rice. I let my rice toast up for a little bit until it was like a golden brown color, and now I'm adding in my other smoked sausage link, and I'll also be adding in the rest of my pineapple from that morning. I'm also going to be adding in the rest of the frozen peas and carrots, and then some hoisin sauce, soy sauce, sriracha, some of the bean juice from one of the containers that I had left over from the day before. I just cook those beans in the Instant Pot. I've showed y'all how I like to cook them several times. I just picked through them and added, I think, 4 or 6 cups of water. It says on the back of the package. I want to say it might have been 6 cups though. And just cooked up the entire thing. I actually didn't use most all of the beans for this challenge, but I do show y'all how I ended up using the rest of the beans. But I'm adding in probably about 2 cups of cooked beans, and then you'll see me putting in like a jar of brownish liquid. That is pineapple juice, soy sauce, and the bean juice, because I needed to measure how much liquid was going in, because since I did 2 cups of rice, I wanted to make sure I had 4 cups of water. So since my soy sauce, bean juice, and pineapple juice was 2 cups, I added 2 cups of just plain water too. You can also season this with some salt and pepper to taste. And then I'm going to pressure cook this on the rice function and let it do a natural release for 5 minutes. Then I will release the pressure, and this is what it looks like. All of the smoked sausage kind of floats up to the top, and then you just fluff it all up and serve it. I used the yogurt cup that I washed out from that morning to kind of mold it into this fancy looking cone. It was delicious. Now I'm going to show y'all what I made for the snacks or treats for the couple of days. And we're starting off with the pretzels that turned into dinner rolls. I didn't do the baking soda bath on these, so they turned into dinner rolls. I just didn't feel like boiling them in the baking soda. But I actually found out afterwards that you don't actually have to boil them. Apparently, you can just dip them in the baking soda water. Like, just take some hot water and dissolve some baking soda into it, and then dip them in it. Apparently, that will give you the same effect as if you would have boiled them in there. I don't know. You'll have to take that advice with a grain of salt, because I haven't tried it for myself. But if you want to give it a try, you can. The next time that I make pretzels, I will definitely try it out. But I just took 4 cups of flour, and of course all recipes will be in the description box. If they're not mine, I will link them. But you're going to take the flour, then you're going to add salt, sugar, baking soda, and yeast. And then you're going to add your water and milk mixture that you've kind of warmed up a little bit. There was also some margarine in there. You could use butter or oil. And I'm doing a double batch of the recipe that I'm using. It makes 8, so I'm going to make 14 pretzels instead of 16. And with the last 2 pretzels, I'm going to make 7 pretzel bites. And you can make all of these into pretzel bites if you wanted to. I just thought that the pretzels would be cuter. My kids loved them, even though they did turn into twisted dinner rolls. You're supposed to let the dough rest before you kind of roll it out. I didn't do that. I let it rest after I rolled it out. So you just kind of roll it out into like a log or, longer strand. And then you'll do 2 loops at the top part. And then you'll just fold the loops over, and it'll give you that nice pretzel look. And you can roll these out way thinner if you want like larger pretzels. Because you'll notice that some of them, you can't even tell they're like supposed to be pretzels. They kind of look like they're supposed to be like garlic knots at the end. Which I imagine garlic knots would be super delicious too. And now I'm showing y'all the pretzel bites. Once I got them all rolled out, I just let them rest or rise on the tray covered with a kitchen towel. And that was the point after they rose where you would want to do the baking soda bath. I didn't. I just spritzed them with some oil and baked them. Everyone could have 2 full ones and then 1 of the pretzel bites. And this is where the remaining cheese sauce went. These were super delicious, even though they were dinner rolls. The next snack that I'm showing y'all is more of a sweet treat, and it lasted a few days longer than I was planning because these are, very rich, and I wasn't expecting it to make as much as it did. But what you want to do is take 1.5 cups of peanut butter, or 3/4 of the jar of peanut butter. I was a little generous with my peanut butter measurement, so I ended up using most of the jar, but we'll use the rest of the jar in a minute anyways, so it'll be fine. We're going to use the whole jar anyways. So to the 1.5 cups of peanut butter, you do want to add 1.5 cups of some type of syrup or honey. I know this is a lot of honey that I'm using. However, if you were using pancake syrup, it would be a whole lot cheaper. I didn't have any pancake syrup on hand. Normally, I don't even keep pancake syrup on hand anymore. What I will do instead is I'll just make a brown sugar syrup. And my kids actually like that a whole lot better. However, we had this honey on hand, and I didn't really feel like making brown sugar syrup. So I just went ahead and used the honey that I already had. So you'll want to add your 1.5 cups of peanut butter, 1.5 cups of honey, then a good pinch of salt. I don't think I showed the salt, but I did add it. And then you'll want to melt this over a low heat until it's nice and combined and it's thinned out a bit. Once it's to that point, you'll want to add 12 cups of Rice Krispy cereal, or Rice Crisp in my case. And that is is the amount that's supposed to be in that bag. I think it had more than 12 cups. I just added the whole box because it was supposed to be exactly 12 cups. But it was a little crumbly, and I've made this recipe before and it wasn't crumbly. It could also be because of my mixing skills, because I just mixed it in my large pot. And we did have some clumps of just peanut butter. But anyways, once you've got all of that mixed as well as you can, you'll want to transfer it to a casserole dish of some kind. I have no idea what size this one is. I think it's maybe a 13 by 9. But you'll want to just put all this in there and then kind of press them down. And for the top, I am taking the last little bit of peanut butter. I love those little spatulas because you can get everything out of there. And I'm going to melt that with probably about half a cup of chocolate chips. Those are completely optional. You could just, warm up the peanut butter and drizzle it over the top. Or if you've got some cocoa powder, maybe add a little cocoa powder and a little bit of sugar to get the same effect as the chocolate chips. But I'm just going to melt those over a low heat. And I ended up having enough to completely cover the top of my Rice Krispie treats, or peanut butter Rice Krispie treats. I don't know. But originally I was just going to drizzle it. As you can see, this was a triple batch of this recipe, which I think I already said. So if you just wanted to make a single recipe, you could do 4 cups of Rice Krispies, half a cup of peanut butter, half a cup of honey, and just a little pinch of salt. You also can mix the chocolate chips with the peanut butter and honey and just have it all chocolatey. But here's what it looked like. It was delicious. So I did have most all of the beans left over, like I previously mentioned, because I just didn't use them. I did no planning prior to this challenge, so I didn't really know what I was making or what I would want to use. So this bean dip that I've made is not part of my challenge, but I wanted to show how I used up those beans because I did have about 4 to 6 cups of cooked beans left over. Of course, you can freeze them, but I made a bean dip and it was delicious. I actually recently shared my favorite bean dip recipe. It's a copycat Tostitos bean dip recipe, if I can talk today. So I'll leave that linked in the description box. I just used the rest of those navy beans and processed them in my food processor before making the rest of the bean dip with them. And y'all will have to ignore my mangled burrito. Alright guys, that was everything that I made with my $20 budget. And be sure to come back next week and see what my husband has made with his $20 budget. Above all, don't y'all ever forget Jesus loves y'all and I love y'all too. I hope y'all have the most fabulous day and I will see y'all soon. Bye!